benefits.
Okay, Mr. Cybert
He's
is
here.
not.
He's here. His coat's over.
I know, but he's not in the room. Ms. Seymour? Here. Mr. Moss?
Here.
Mr. Lance is not, I have not heard from him. Ms. Jordan?
Here.
Mr. Frazier?
Here.
Mr. Burkett?
Here.
You have 5 members present.
The item that we are discussing, the council finance committee heard this item being their committee meeting. And do you want to take this, Fred?
Yeah, and I'm going to refer to
Jim?
Mr. Pierce. This is actually item H under the consent agenda.
Go ahead, Jim.
Okay, as you recall, and each year before we print our new capper, so this is last year's capper, we go through the exercise. It's kind of a housekeeping exercise of designating or assigning pieces of fund balance to which the council has certain earmarks for. So basically what we've done is we started as a template, 2013 would have been Mr. Schreck's template at this. And basically what it delineates is for the different funds, how part of their fund balance is going to be allocated when we print this book. Now, remember that there are certain pieces in fund balance that are automatically restricted, such as the Metro Act that we come in. We have to restrict that immediately. It can be used for no other purpose than what the Metro Act says. So that's not part of this. What this does is take the piece that really is unassigned before the book is printed and says, here are some of the concepts that the council would wish to put these monies toward at a future date. Again, in most of these assignments, next year, the first meeting in January, we can come back with a different issue and we can change these assignments at any time. But it's just a way of showing at the end of the year, because again, our capper is a snapshot of June 30th and what, the plans were. So basically, in the previous year to this year, if you look at the first line, which is last year we had, in order to balance the budget, we had $2.2 million set aside. We did not need that. I can tell you that for a fact, that by the time this book is published, we did not use fund balance. We actually are putting money into fund balance. This year, when you talk about 2015's budget, in order to balance the 2015's budget, we did budget a $450,000 use of fund balance. So that is a simple designation that we always assign the subsequent year's expenditures. So that did go down. The dispatch improvement is a revenue source that we get whenever we bill late for dispatch. We take that revenue and we increase the reserve. Unfortunately, due to turnover, the invoicing to Lathrop Village didn't happen until after September, so I cannot record this year's revenue as revenue. I have to defer it. So next year you're going to see a double increase to this reserve because, in fact, we will get 2 revenues. We'll get 2 entries, a 2014 entry and 2015 entry. We figured out what was wrong in the system, and we have corrected that so that we won't have that going forward. The emergency cleanup is like $17,000. It's like $1 for every garbage pickup that we have. So that was an increase of 701 or 1701. We left the equalization reserve alone. We are confident that the number of MCTs are going down, but we still have several to settle, so we thought it was probably prudent to leave that as it is. As it stands right now, we think we're going to be putting about $3 million plus into fund balance as of the end of 14. So we decided to be cautious. We would put 1.25 extra into your tax-based initiative. You guys can make a decision to change that because they do have a different option if you guys wanted to. As it happens, when we went to council finance, there was one thing that was still up in the air about the retirement health care reimbursement, and so there had a $2 million swing one way or the other, which way it was going to hit the general fund. It landed as, like, instead of a $2 million hit to the general fund, only $800,000. So I got about $1.2 million out of that in extra fund balance. So we could designate that, or I can come back in January, because I plan to be coming back in January or the beginning of February. Of course, you're going to have your the report from the auditors with the results. But we have several items for 2015. Now that 14 is closed, we can look at the budget, because as you're aware, when we budgeted 2015, we kind of just mirrored 14, and there's been certain hirings and certain things, so we want to make sure that we come back and adjust the budget. So anything that goes into undesignated budget fund balance, we will probably be using part of that to fix 2015's budget, because we know for a fact that there was a couple things that were missed. I think there was a bond payment, but I think that was this year, and I took care of it. We know we've hired a couple people that were not, because they were brought in towards the end of the budget period. They weren't actually put in the budget. We were going to do a budget adjustment for those. So there will be some use of that fund balance. So even if 1.7, 1.8 went into undesignated, I would anticipate probably using another 800 to make sure that 2015 going forward is correct. So again, but seeing that you're going to be using, according to the last couple of meetings ago, that you're going to use part of that $6 million, 3.25 technically, we thought it was prudent to put another 1.25, so at least there'll be $4 million still there after even purchase. Equalization reserves, again, on Parks and Rec side, we didn't adjust. Bedford Woods is simply the rent we get from the cell phone tower that's set at Bedford Woods, and it's designated each year to be used for something at Bedford Woods. So Parks and Rec just accumulates that until they have a project, enough money to do a substantial project, I guess, as it stands. The SMART program, that's been out there forever, and we are in talks with Parks and Rec. They did get rid of therapeutic, which was there last year and had been on here forever. That they need to find some reason. I know that there's people that need the SMART things. They just need to find a use for that, so that doesn't keep carrying. Again, with the library, we left those designations the same as last year. The equalization reserve, they had a reserve for capital projects. They know each year they're going to have issues with HVAC or different things, so we just assign an amount to capital projects, and the same thing with residential program initiatives. I will want to delve into that one, because I'm not exactly sure how that was derived last year, but it doesn't really hurt them in the long run, so I left it the same until I can really get with the librarian and really do that. And same thing with technological development. Most of these were carryovers from the previous year, which Jim basically did them in his office that night, and I'm not exactly sure what really holds them back. The only good thing is it's not a true legal restriction, it's an assignment. So with an assignment, it can be changed at any time for you. So I didn't think that was, it was necessary to wipe them out, as it were. I figured, okay, they must have had a reason for them. They haven't come to me and asked for using them in 2014, so we'll just leave them in for 14, and we will rectify it in 2015, so that we have a full understanding of what exactly their needs are, and if these dollars are even enough for them, or if they need something else designated. The rest, up until we get to cable, is equalization reserve. Cable equipment, every year, that's just an annual thing. They are not a part of the equipment revolving fund. They've never been a part of the equipment revolving fund. So where other funds would contribute to an equipment replacement fund, and then when they needed their equipment replaced, they would go to that fund. Well, the cable department, this is long precedes me, they never wanted to be in that fund. So we've always designated a certain amount of their money just for equipment. But again, they spent well over that this year, but they still have enough money to redesignate the same amount. So basically, again, this is really just hopefully the last house cleaning item for getting the CAFR finished. We do have pretty much, I have to Wednesday, I think I can make it. They want the book, the book balances, everything is good, we just have to do the backfilling, and I still have like a day and a half worth of entries to get to them for Wednesday, which is fine. I know what I have to do, and it's a very small laundry list at this point. So we're very confident that we're going to be making it on time this year, so it will be to the state. I think we've taken care of all the deficits. If there's one deficit, which happens every year in the CDBG account, because block grant is reimbursable, so we make the expenditure, the revenue doesn't come in until a month or a half later, then it becomes, okay, there's no revenue, but you got these expenditures. And then it's called deferred revenue because we've earned it, we just don't have it. So that, to the state, is not a big issue if that's the only thing I have on my deficit elimination plan. We do, when I come back in January, where there are some issues and want to talk about budgeting and different programs to make sure that the council and everybody are all on the same page on, how much these programs are costing us and whether they are really covering their own costs. Because we did have a couple of problems with that in the 14 budget, but it's not anything that will preclude us from printing the book or accepting these designations. So, is there any other questions?
Council, are there any questions? Yes, Mr. Seibert?
Clarification, so under the Bedford Woods cell phone tower, that's what's accumulated to date? It's not-
I think they did do some, it really is, it's like, whatever the difference is, I just looked it up, it's like, it's 22,000 or something like that we get each year. I think we got actually a kicker this year, so there was an extra, in 2014 there was an extra lump sum, but I think it's like 12,000 a year, so yeah, we've been collecting that.
Okay.
And again, it's sitting in Bedford Woods, so that's why it's earmarked for that part. But yeah.
At first I looked at this and I thought, they got that much on a cell phone tower?
No, it's been sitting there for, because like I said, every year for the last umpteen.
And I don't understand the smart,
The smart, basically it was from my recollection, because I do recall this, and this is going back several years, it was a differential from what we took in and what we spent. And so, of course, because it's earmarked, we allocated it to that thing. Now they basically spend what they take in because we weren't, we're in looking at full cost, you have to.
so could this be used for senior transportation?
I'm assuming, yeah, that was exactly what I would expect them to use it for.
Supplement our.
Exactly. But again, I need to talk to them to say, because again, it was like therapeutic. Therapeutic was out there, it was, as everybody called it, the Tootsie Roll money that had been out there forever, and they just never asked for a fund balance draw to use it. So, anyway, yeah, it's something that I think that easily we will rectify along with, like we said, we have to sit down and Sue, you're in the room. We have to sit down and look at all those balances we have in that donation and trust fund and say, okay, we got to use some of this money, and what can we use it for? Because it just sits there, and it's a waste. So this is another one. It's just not in that fund. It just happens to be in Parks and Rec.
Anything else, Council?
Just clarification, the equalization balance, the equalization reserve,
Mm-hmm.
you put in $2 million for tax appeals.
Mm-hmm. Well,
That's just open up.
quite frankly, I can tell you exactly how that was derived.
Okay.
Well, I can't tell you how he came up with the numbers. In the past, that had been well into $4.3 million. When we did the last allocation in 13, a number of things settled. Now, of course, we've got new ones for 14, and we'll have new ones for 15. Jim was not comfortable reducing that, because we were going to reduce it to like $600,000, the designated reserve. He was not comfortable with that. He didn't think it was.
No.
Yeah, he didn't think it was enough. I'm showing that we probably were, because again, and I'll go back to the budgeting process, one of the things through the budget that he would say we were not taking money out of fund balance for operations. And for whatever reason, he didn't think that tax appeals really were operations, which technically they are, but, so anyway, he was anticipating using more than that out of operations. I don't think, if I look back at the general fund currently for tax appeals, it's over budget, but I don't think it's, because that's what we would use this reserve for. It's not over budget by more than maybe $400,000. And then we had ample enough, because I'll have to tell you, from a tax standpoint, he used Dave Teacherine as the assessor's original numbers, not the numbers from the final March warrant, which were considerably lower because he was trying to be conservative. Well, basically, the general fund, the reason we have this swing is not on expenditures. Normally, we have the swing and it's all on the expenditure side. It's not on the expenditure side. It's on the revenue side. So the taxes really kind of saved us because he used such a lower number. We basically, I think we're at like $2.9 million over taxes because he used the original number, not the March one, which is good in a one-time situation, and it helped us fabulously this year. Going forward, that's why I need to come back sometime in the next 6 to 8 weeks and really go through all of what's happening in the 15 and present with Fred what our issues are going forward.
Okay, because if you just plunk in a number and the tax appeals don't amount to that number, you're still accumulating money in the fund.
And really, if you look at the book, it gets shown in two ways. In one way, you do see that. You'll see on one page where it has, you know, your total fund balance.
Oh, yeah.
But again, you can, I know you can't see it that far, but it has the restrictions and non-spendable, all this different stuff that, encumbrances, that kind of thing. But really, when you look at it, if you wanted to look at the reality of it, and most people that look at this know that committed, assigned, and unassigned can be combined, and that's really at the discretion of council. The rest of the stuff is not at their discretion, other than you can approve a project that it falls in that category. But that unassigned, the assigned, and committed, pretty much, you guys are the driving force of that. So again, it doesn't hurt to assign it, and I promise you that when we come back for 15, I'll have a more scientific number.
Okay.
But it was just a matter of getting this done and thinking, okay, it will take me enough time to actually get this when, in fact, $2 million is a good number. I mean, it doesn't hurt us. If it was, you know, causing us to have a deficit or a negative unassigned, then I would say no, I would get rid of it. But it doesn't hurt for the 6 months, you know, until we do the next one. So
Okay.
that was just my reason. And again, you can make it. You guys are allowed to make any judgments. You can make any changes you like. I'm just.
Well, if we were going to make a change, then we'd have to know what the number was.
Well, I would say, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I can tell.
No, that's not.
No, I could probably figure it out. Because I will tell you that in the CAFR or in the numbers that we finishing off, you know, within the next couple of days, I have set aside even some numbers for appeals that wouldn't, you know, that would fall outside of this. So we do have two other, you know, we're covered, is basically what I'm saying. Even if everything settled and we lost everything, which would have been more than this $2 million, I think would be fine.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
Yep.
This is on the agenda, what is that, that's F, no, that's not F.
It's H, I think.
Anyway,
H,
it's on under the consent agenda,
Okay.
and item H, so,
I had another
Yes,
question,
Mr.
but
Sagan.
not on this, on another thing that's on the agenda. I'd
Yes.
rather ask it now than in there.
go ahead.
And I guess it's to Fred. I read we've got the consent agenda to tear the house down on Glen Erie. And it's $11,300, something like that. I just left for the page.
11 something, yeah.
Yeah.
It's 11 something. Anyhow, the escrow check is for 8,300. So does that extra, does the difference get applied to the tax bill on that?
Yeah, we're gonna lien, under the court order that allows us to demolish, we have a right to lien the property for our costs.
Okay, good.
So we have a difference there of what, $3,000?
Yeah,
We
so-
will lien it for that amount.
Okay.
Obviously, you know that liening it always presents a risk to us, because if that property goes to a tax foreclosure, we get wiped out, and that's always a concern. But at least to the extent that we have the over $8,000 in the fire insurance money, at least at risk, we've only got 3. But we definitely will lien it, and we will lien the property.
Well, it's a nice lot. So possibly,
Somebody will pick it up.
if we did
Yeah.
have it, we could sell it if they don't pay their taxes.
And that building will be graded and seeded.
Yep, yeah, they have their standard specs, yeah.
Anything else, Council?
Do you think it would be necessary for me to be at the meeting? Do you think there'll be any questions at the meeting? Because
No,
otherwise I can.
you can go. Seriously,
I'm
went
going to
through
go
with
number
finance.
back about 4.
I'm not trying to short those that were not at finance, but.
Right. No, it's exactly why I wanted to have the cow was, is
Yeah.
I know there was 3 people that, you know, and normally we would do this as a cow because we want everybody to be on the same page, so.
You've got to get to work anyway.
Thank you.
So we,
Okay, let's go.
Give me this.
Meeting's adjourned.